claim that that was not the intent of the legislators. Does that impact how the bill or the law is enforced?
Yes, and I don't think so. I think one thing I discussed is when you as an attorney are being trained in law school and trained in statutory construction, the number one rule is the plain language of the statute is what must be followed. You don't go behind it and ask what the senator or the House member meant when they voted for it. What they meant is not even a consideration when you're looking at the plain language. If it ends up having a result that they did not intend, then they need to have a legislative change to change the legislation. So while there may be legislators who focus on the first part, because I think a majority of both houses, both parties in the House and the Senate wanted in-person instruction 5 days a week to resume based upon where we were in March. And so perhaps that was the focus, the whole part one. And so I can't really explain why we may have some patrons who supported that bill, who read it differently, but I think the plain language, which uses the word shall, is the most important. It says that schools shall do this. So obviously, I could not advise you not to follow a statute that says that you shall follow CDC guidance. So even though it's CDC guidance, the statute says you shall follow it. So it makes it mandatory.
And please explain why mask mandates are practicable.
Again, practicable means capable of being performed, feasible, possible. And that word is not defined in the Virginia Code, but it is used a couple of times, and that is not only the Merriam-Webster definition, but the Black's Law Dictionary definition. So it doesn't have to mean that it's a perfect solution, or that people disagree or agree with it, or that it'd be better if it didn't happen for some. It just means, is it feasible or possible? So it is possible to require universal masking. You've done it before, which is proof that it's possible. So nothing changed. Opinions may have changed, but the physical requirements of student masking, with teachers trying to enforce it, with looking at accommodations for the disabled, all of those things you all have done, and you've done them arguably successfully. And again, does it really matter if it's successful, because you're looking at whether it's feasible. And to use my example again, I think there are some of those things that aren't feasible, and many of those things include the distance. So obviously the guidance says you should be 6 feet apart is preferable, 3 feet if you're wearing a mask, and we all know there are going to be situations in schools where you're just not able to do that all the time. So you're not violating the law when you walk down a hallway and you end up passing another student a foot apart, because it's not practicable to enforce that, because it's impossible to enforce it because you don't have the space.
And that CDC recommends masks be worn, so they're confident that recommending masking but not requiring it would fulfill the letter of the law.
Can you ask that one more time? I'm sorry.
It says the CDC recommends that masks be worn. So they are confident that if we just recommend masking but not requiring masking would fulfill the letter of the law.
And again, I don't agree with that, because we go back to the language, the plain language of the statute that uses the word shall. So if the school board simply passed a resolution saying we recommend that you follow CDC advice, then you're not following the statute, which says that school divisions shall require their students to implement CDC advice. So you're taking away the school board has unfortunately the duty to pass that instead of just passing it down for others, because of course the purpose of all that is to have all people in schools, at least until some point when this gets rescinded, to be masked. And if you have all these exemptions, including exemptions you don't need, which we're here about tonight, then you're not going to be accomplishing what the law says you have to do by having a universal mask mandate.
And last one, what are the potential ramifications for breaking the law?
I mean, there are many ramifications. I think the most obvious one would be immediate lawsuits that could be placed against you for things like injunctive relief. And of course, you can never prevent lawsuits from being filed on either side, because people do have very strong beliefs on all sides of this issue. But if someone tries to get a court to rule that your decision was wrong because it doesn't comply with law, the person would easily win the lawsuit by looking at the plain language of the issue, and then you may be responsible for attorney's fees, for the other side's attorney's fees. There are those types of issues.